Okay, take it away. I was leader of the group that looked at high-impact, low-probability events, which we call black swans and white whales. Up to 1600, black swans in Europe meant something that you knew could not possibly exist. And then in the 16th century, a Dutch explorer found black swans in Australia, and our understanding of swans in general changed forever. And so black swans is a metaphor for events that change our view of the world completely. White whales are things that we've always known are out there, but are really, really rare events. And so that's where we got this terminology. You've already heard one example, or maybe perhaps the archetypical example of a black swan, namely 911, which changed our view of many, many, many aspects of the world completely. While we were in the process of having this discussion, we actually had two black swan events. One was the eruption of Eyjafjallajökull in... You've stolen 10 seconds. In Iceland, which produced this volcanic cloud of ash that shut down air traffic in Europe. And certainly that was a black swan event for the people in Europe. They will never look at Iceland in the same way again. We also had the Transocean drilling rig explosion, which, according to BP and the United States government, could not possibly have had anything go wrong before it actually occurred. And so from that point of view, this is a black swan event that's going to change how we view deep ocean drilling for oil forever. So these two events took place. But they also raise some interesting questions. For example, can you prove that there is no risk from something? All the way back when we tested the first atomic bomb, there was concern that it would ignite the atmosphere. The explosion would ignite the atmosphere and burn up the entire atmosphere. And it took Enrico Fermi many, many weeks to make the calculation to show that this would not happen. This incident raised its head again with the Large Hadron Collider, where somebody said, well, maybe it'll produce a black hole which will consume the Earth. And they had to deal with that. And I thought, well, at least we don't have to worry about aliens. And yet, a week later, Stephen Hawking came out with the statement that we should not be sending broadcasting waves into the atmosphere, out into space, because he really believes there are aliens out there. Technology, we learned technology is critically important. The largest known solar flare occurred in the 19th century, at the end of the 19th century. And if that solar flare occurs again, we could very well lose all of our communication satellites, all of our GPS, and you may not know it, but electricity power plants and a lot of computing is coupled in a strange way to GPS receivers for timing and everything else. So we've got that problem to deal with. Location is also important. A huge earthquake in the Taklamakan Desert that doesn't kill anyone and that doesn't destroy anything. How do you factor that in as an important event? And then there are many cities in North America where the relatively recent history shows strong earthquakes, and we're not worrying about those in St. Louis, in Boston, in Quebec, in Charleston, and who knows, maybe even Washington, D.C. Another problem is getting somebody to do something about it, even if the really bright people in the room understand what the risk is. During the Cold War, there were very credible calculations about the impact of a nuclear exchange and the impact of nuclear winter, but those, in fact, had no impact whatsoever on the people who were making decisions. On the other hand, the Congress of the United States, in its wisdom, has chosen as its pet high-impact, low-probability event asteroid impacts. We spend $20 million a year trying to figure out if one of these is going to happen, even though we can't do anything about it. And so in dealing with risk, there's the basic probability, there's the complexity that comes to it, there's people's perception of risk, and there's the political response. These are all important factors, and then there are some confounding factors. The vulnerability of modern technology, the dependence on location for a lot of these things, inadequacy of the historical record in determining what the history is, and when we're talking about human-caused events, changing the rules of engagement.